You wanted to talk a little bit about our third culture kids, our missionary kids, and what kinds of strategies they can use, or jigs as we're calling them, when they're coming back to the States. Maybe we can explain what a jig is first.
Okay, so maybe third culture kids before
maybe
that,
that too, yeah.
Third culture kids, somebody who has grown up most of their developmental life, or at least part of it, outside a culture that's their parents' culture.
Mm-hmm.
A jig is some sort of tool or technology in the vast definition of the word that helps make something easier.
Yeah, I tend to think of a jig as a pattern, like a pattern you can follow so you don't have to think all the time.
Right.
Which is, of course, one of the problems with being a third culture kid and coming back to the U.S. is you constantly have to think about everything because you don't know what it means or how to do it.
Right, so having a jig or a pattern that all of the third culture kids could follow to make an easier re-entry into the American culture / university culture.
Right. Because some of the things that are so obvious to Americans, like the question, where are you from, as we have said, make no sense for our kids.
Right.
And so we have to help them know how to answer questions like that.
Yes, and then giving them a place to be able to answer it how they want to answer it versus I need to hide this because they don't want to hear about my country again. They don't want to hear about my experiences. Oh, yes, we know you've been there. And so having a space where they can come together, they can describe what it's like to be coming back to a different culture where they've grown up completely different.
So you were telling me about a club or a group that can sometimes offer that space?
Mu Kappa is like a fraternity type club that was made for missionary kids, the M and the
K.
Mu and the K for missionary kids.
Right.
But it can be for expats, military, whatever, that have lived in a different country, come back, and the whole purpose is to get them together, to be a support group for them, to help them work through the different, why don't they understand when I say, or why do they get upset when I say, understand that, but also the spirituality part too, where we need to encourage them. Yes, they've been, for missionary kids, they've been working with their parents, evangelizing this unevangelized area. Now I come back to this Christian country. What is Christianity?
Right.
It's not the way I know it, the way it looked when I grew up.
Yeah. I remember when we came back at one point and my daughter was in, I think, maybe 9th grade in the local school, and she came home after about a week and she said, "Mom, everybody here's a Christian." And I said, honey, I'm not sure about that. But that was her impression.
Yeah.
Just
And
the contrast between America and where we had been.
Right, yeah. Completely different. One thing that helped my daughter, make faith hers was when she realized that Jesus had been a third culture kid.
Oh, interesting.
He spent time in Egypt, which was
course.
neither of his parents' culture.
Right.
And so when it says in the Bible we have a mediator who knows all of our struggles, before that she would say, no, he doesn't. He doesn't know what it's like to come back to America.
Right.
And then when she realized that, yes,
Oh, yeah.
he knows my struggles. And so to be able to help them see that, help them be able to voice all their anger and grief of losing their culture and having to come to this other place,
Right.
we need something to put a cushion around them.
Yeah.
Yes, they need to be able to understand the Americans that they're going to be in their dorm rooms with, but they need a safe place where they can come and be themselves.
And usually that's with others who've had similar kinds of experiences, right? But we were talking about the fact that my children went to state schools and didn't have this Mu Kappa option even available to them. And so one of the ways I think technology was really beneficial for them was they were able to create that kind of community through a Facebook group or through some kind of online group. Or they could connect with other friends that they had known on the mission field who were going through the same thing at the same stage of life coming back to the States.
No matter where they were.
No matter where they were, it's this virtual community.
Do this, and everybody understands exactly what they're doing.
Why do they ask me if there's a 4th of July in Spain? Well, honey, because they're not thinking through the implications of the question.
Right.
Right. Community is a group thing, it's a communal thing, but often our kids are facing these things as individuals. They feel isolated. And so one of the benefits of some of the social media has been to rebuild that connection and help them not feel so isolated.
Right. And then also there's technology in terms of magazines that are made for missionary kids by missionary kids among worlds, and how that can go wherever they are, and they can read it, what somebody else has said and felt. It's like, yes, this is exactly. I didn't know how to say it, and yet here it is.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think I worry about a little bit that the social media does provide for our kids and for us is this constant ability to be connecting everywhere all the time. And perhaps one of the downfalls for our third culture kids is that, I don't know if this is fair, but does it keep them too connected to the thing that they've now had to leave and slow down their ability to make transitions back into this culture?
Right.
And I wonder what you think about that.
Yeah, it's interesting because the grief and loss. So if you haven't really completely lost it, you're still holding on to it.
Right.
Are you able to go through the rest of the steps of the anger and the bargaining and the final acceptance?
Right. Yeah, and so that's a place where technology both helps and hurts.
Right.
Because they can stay connected to those people from the other place and then slow down that process of going through the stages of adjustment and
there needs to be
processing.
Something on there that says, okay, now you've lost it. How are you going to deal with it? Yes, it's good to maybe go back later and make connections again with it. It'll be completely different, but making those connections. But you need to deal with this loss.
Yeah.
Somehow helping them through that.
And somehow that sums up what I've been thinking about technology as we've been doing this week, which is that every technology has both advantages and disadvantages. And we can over-focus on one side without looking at the other, and it's really healthy, I think, to keep in mind that it does both. And we have to be wise utilizers of the technology.
And we have to think ahead, like one of the authors was talking about the ripple effect. What does it do? If you do this, what is the ripple? If you hold on to Thailand or Japan or Spain, what is that going to do down here?
Do to your present and your future.
Yeah.
Yeah.